Welcome to Perception's first video interview. I'm joined today by the rather marvellous Trevor and Bex Sylvester, and we're here to talk about Trevor's new book, Lovebirds. So, let's start with a brief overview about the book.
Well,
it's very lovely.
Bex was driving me mad, so I thought I needed to put it down in print.
No, really, come on.
I've been working with clients for a very long time with the relationship problems, and I wanted to really put across to the public the kind of things that people bring into the room and the way that they can be helped, because what I find is that so very often people are still in love and committed to each other, but just can't find a way of being happy being committed to each other. And it's usually the differences between them that are causing the problem. They don't even understand what those differences are, because we're usually led to believe that it's about whether you're a man or whether you're a woman and those kind of things, and they're very obvious, but actually so much more often they're more subtle differences. And so what I did with the book was to divide people into 8 types according to the differences that seem to make the difference most often.
So this is the birds.
These are the birds. I gave them a bird type, which is not, it's only very generally got anything to do with the nature of the bird itself.
It was a quick, easy way of just kind of giving.
People remember names and things, don't they?
Yes.
In that kind of way, rather than making it sound too technical. And then, if people read the book, they can take a quiz that identifies their type. It tells them what they're like. Their partner can do the same thing, and then I talk about the combinations of the types and the way that the things that make them different can actually become a strength instead of the thing that drives them apart. That's the biggest part of the message.
And it's a lot of fun. It's not, it has a serious side, but it's also a way of just finding out interesting, useful stuff as opposed to just about solving problems.
It'd be great if it helps people to laugh at the things they're shouting about. That would be one of the real big aims.
It is a funny book. Do you need to mention that?
I'm a very funny guy.
It's a funny book. So now you two not only are partners, love partners, but you're business partners as well. How do you manage that? Are there any particular challenges? Any advice you'd give to people that are a couple and want to work together? How do you do it? How is it so successful?
I think the principle's the same, as there's no right and wrong. There's no desperately handy combination, and there's no combination that absolutely wouldn't work. I think the one thing I would say is useful is Trevor is a very big picture, creative, lots of ideas person, and I am more of a detail person, and as you kind of go through the book you'll realise those come in certain categories, and that definitely helps in the sense that he's very good. We joke about within our business, he's the inspiration and I'm the perspiration, and that does tend to, in the nicest possible sense, that does tend to work. But I think if you had if you had 2 people in a business that were perhaps both creatives and big picture people, then they'd probably look to employ someone then who, so you get the benefits of whatever combination, don't you?
So you're complementing each other.
Yeah, we do.
do.
We are very different people in the Lovebirds types, as opposite as you can get, really. And the things that are in the book really help us to keep the conversation at what it's really about, rather than make the mistake of making it about the identities of each other. And to find ways to feed our strengths. One of the things is, in a sense, I often feel that Bex gets the short end of the stick because I get to do the things I find fun. The creativity and the,
Darling.
I make things up. What's more fun than that? But actually putting them into action is a bit of a drag for me. And Bex does that, and often it's not because she finds that to be fun, but just because that suits her style. She's good at it.
You find that easy?
So she takes the weight off. So she recognises that I'm better at doing some things than she is, and I recognise the same in her, and we kind of just make it work, don't we?
Yeah. So you wouldn't say no combination should ever work together in business?
There's nothing that couldn't work.
Nothing couldn't.
And I think that's one of the fun things. It's just like every relationship. Every relationship can work. You just have to figure out your way to have your relationship, not try to have anybody else's idea of what your relationship should be.
And I think it's also about the information of knowing that the explanation, understanding of knowing about an aspect of a person gives all sorts of permissions. In a sense, it's not something that is valued or not valued, it's information. And that puts a completely different feeling to a lot of things.
It does.
So it may look to everyone on the outside world that this is a perfect relationship.
That's it.
So obviously describe
We
your
just float
challenges.
above the ground,
Yes.
Yeah.
essentially.
Yes. We're paddling like
But
underneath.
There's a lot of you in the book, isn't there, about how you've overcome
Yes.
particular challenges?
There are. I drove Bex mad for a whole year, just everything that she did. Me saying that's going in the book. It was just, I think it's part of what the book's about. That relationships are never done. You can never stop with your relationship and say, we've got that now.
Mm-hmm.
It's about relating, and relating never ends. So every day there's a negotiation, there's give and take, and there's flow, and there's understandings and misunderstandings, and you've got to keep your attention on it to greater or lesser degree.
But again, I place the emphasis on that not being hard work.
No.
If the information is available.
Once you have the language,
we
it's
more
not
often
at all.
laugh now at those moments because we go, it's one of those where you're just doing that, rather than being relentlessly hard work to keep up with. It's just yeah.
And you can even see when we are at the beginning of what's going to be a misunderstanding, one or other of us will go, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So put the brakes on before.
Yeah.
And there's a language that we have from the book that you can kind of work it through what's gone on there, and you go, that's what that was about, and it's just forgotten, isn't it?
So any big humdingers, any really big arguments about what was okay to go in the book, what wasn't?
Bex doesn't know.
Come
everything.
on.
I was going to say I
Want to know?
didn't really get much choice.
I'm creative. I can't be inhibited by censorship, can I? There wasn't really, was there? I think I had a sense of what wouldn't be, although sometimes I get that wrong.
No, I think I'm getting more and more used to the fact that the world knows our.
Yes, I do
We
share.
know a lot
I do
about
quite. I do share quite a lot, don't I? Mainly the funny stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of funny stuff in relationships.
And Bex, any tips for anyone else out there living with an owl?
Which is my type.
Which is Trevor's type, yeah.
You know that feeling when you've had a whole conversation and you've got an absolute knowledge that information hasn't been heard. Don't have too many of those. It's not that the person isn't listening, they're talking about something else in their head and they're fascinated by that thing at that moment. So the biggest tip is just to say, I've got something really important to say. And if that doesn't work, snap your fingers. If that doesn't work, clap your hands. If that doesn't work, take your top off. That'll work.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But
Oh yeah, that does it.
it's not a sign of someone not being interested, not loving, not this, that and the other. It's just simply about the fact that they're having a fascinating conversation in their own head and you need to just interrupt them.
So that understanding means you don't have to take it too personally.
Absolutely.
Or personally at
Oh.
all.
Yeah.
Yes. And so you as a swan, Trevor, any tips for living with a swan?
Surrender. They have a way they want the world to be, and they will pursue it remorselessly until they get it, and you will be buried underfoot unless you sign up for it as well, really. So it's about honouring. There are things that are far more important to a swan than they will ever be to an owl, and I think it's a nice thing, as best you can, to find out what those things are and to be part of doing them, knowing at the same time you'll fail because you'll keep wandering off with these fascinating conversations you're having in your head, but to do your best. I used to, before I understood this, I used to almost mock them as not important because they weren't important to me, and I found that
Yes, you
that
did.
I did. I sometimes still do for comedy effect, obviously, but it is important to honour that aspect of the difference, and my life is probably better because of it anyway.
So was it more interesting for you to write about the lovebirds that are so different for you, or did you just love writing about your own?
No, I loved them all, really. It was quite good fun because as much as I'm writing about clients that I've seen, I've kind of taken each type and I've poured into them all the clients of that type that I thought of. So they're a kind of a morph of all of them.
Smorgasbord.
A smorgasbord. And at
Any
the same,
excuse to say.
it's a great word. It is a great word. One of the things was in the writing process, you kind of have to put their head on and then write what would it be like for them in certain situations where I didn't have direct evidence of it. And it was really quite good fun to just...
It's a bit method.
Yeah, it was a bit method. It really was, and thinking about what would they do in that situation and what are those things. And what I found was the more I got into their character, the more examples I remembered of what people had told me of that type. So it kind of worked backwards in that way.
And the bedroom bit, so you enjoyed that part of putting the head on?
Well, obviously there was historical research
Research.
went into it a long time ago, so there was dragging up that memory, and and talking to people as well, and a few internet sites, and that was a joke.
You know when we talk about too much detail.
Yeah.
Oversharing.
Yeah, that was, and some, just putting their head on and what would be most likely kind
Just
of
the
thing.
head,
Yes, yes.
So Bex, we know about you and your love for Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
Who wouldn't?
Really?
Really?
Unbelievable.
Would you care to hazard a guess what lovebird you think he is, or you'd hope him to be?
Well, do you know, this is hopefully going to please Trevor, because I would
Having
hope...
watched Les Mis, not a songbird.
I would hope he is an owl, which is what Trevor is.
Oh.
Because for all the difficulties,
I'm liking this.
he's... Oh, I don't know, there's so many benefits to owls.
Hmm?
So, my guess, though, is he's not. I think he might be a bit more of a peacock.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
When I was at the National, when I used to work at the National Theatre, he was doing Oklahoma at the time, and he was just to pad out the fantasy even more. He was the nicest bloke ever, and actually he was really very K the times.
Was he? Oh, right.
So
he might
maybe
be
a bit too similar.
He might be a
Yeah.
swan or a dove.
But really, really lovely.
Was he?
I'm so tall.
Okay,
the
enough,
shoulders, and the shoulders. Anyway, so who do you think would benefit most from relationship coaching?
For actually coming to somebody, to one of our relationship coaches, it could be a variety of people. What you tend to get are people who come to see you when their relationship is in trouble. So clearly they could benefit. And I think if you do have love in a relationship, it's a tremendous privilege to be loved by somebody, and especially by somebody that you love back. And so it's not a thing to be given away or walked away from easily. So I think if you've still got that, it's worth every effort possible to make the relationship work. And I think our approach to coaching with relationships could be one of those things that could help that. But it would be really brilliant if people in the early stages of a relationship came along, where the coaching would pretty much be educational, where give yourselves a few months of being together, figure out the things you love, you don't love, what gets on your nerves, what doesn't, and then come and be coached about doing more of what's working, do less of what isn't, and recognising the difference between what people are doing and who they are, because often we mix that up and start negatively labelling a negative behaviour at an identity level. You are a, rather than I don't like what you're doing kind of thing. So,
but that's an ideal scenario, isn't it? Getting people in early, this
Yeah, it
educative
is.
idea. But the reality is people are more likely to come when they hit trouble. aren't
Yes,
they?
yeah, they are.
And what are the signs that a relationship is in trouble but still salvageable?
101, I suppose. Is
Yeah,
it
there's
difficult to...
And is it different for different types? Again,
Well, I was
that
going
they-
to... It's an interesting question, because I was listening to Trevor. You could talk about this fitting any relationship where there is love, I think. And
That's
that's
the key.
important.
that's the key thing.
Yes,
It's
and
never
that,
over. if
that
there's
also
love.
means then you have a difficult relationship sometimes with, a sibling or family member, etc. And a lot of these preferences, challenges are principally exactly the same. You can still look at types and say,
Yeah, you could.
I show my love, or I know that I'm loved by my sister, cousin, aunt, if they blah blah. So in that, it's a wider audience than just
Relationships.
one-to-one relationships.
But really the love thing is the key thing, because if their love is no longer present, then the way the coaching can help instead is to help people separate without the damage that often accompanies it, of people being able to go into a new relationship healthily without dragging all the baggage with it. If there are children, for them not to be the emotional footballs that often they're turned into, and for you not to have bounced around between solicitors and had all the money taken off you. If relationships, people don't come to one of our relationship coaches to make sure they stay together, but to ensure they're together because they should be, or to be apart because they should be. That's really what the criteria is.
So it's never too late as long as there's love.
It's never too late. Oh, that's a catchphrase.
Yeah, I think that's a good catchphrase.
We'll tell you that. So thank you very much, Trevor and Bex. It's been
Pleasure.
lovely talking to you. So that's it, Lovebirds. How to live with the one you love. We hope you enjoy the rest of the magazine.